Imagine standing on a muddy riverbank in 19th century England. Thick, stagnant duckweed covers the surface of a pond, making the water look like solid ground. To a child, it looks like a place to play. To a community, it is a site of constant, silent danger. Thousands of miles away, the landscape shifts to the jagged sea ice of the Arctic. Here, the ground doesn't just swallow you, it cracks open. Both environments share a common thread. They are lethal to anyone who doesn't respect the invisible boundaries of the terrain. Modern audiences view the creatures that haunted these places as bedtime stories or Hollywood icons, but for the people living in these landscapes, these monsters were understood as absolute, predatory realities. These creatures were crafted to serve as functional tools for staying alive. They provided a way to navigate a world that lacked warning signs, safety protocols, or a basic understanding of physics. Weaponized folklore was the primary mechanism for public safety. It turned the abstract threat of a cold current or a hidden bog into something vivid, terrifying, and impossible to ignore. The first utility of myth is simple. It acts as a hazard warning system. It translates complex environmental dangers into a narrative that even a small child can process. In the British Isles, that threat was Jenny Greenteeth. She was described as a river hag with green skin and razor-sharp teeth, waiting under the surface of ponds and marshes to drag children into the depths. A toddler cannot grasp the mechanics of drowning or the way duckweed hides a deep drop. However, they can perfectly visualize a monster with iron claws reaching for their ankles. The Inuit people used the calipilowit for the same purpose. These were scaly, aquatic demons hiding in the icy cracks of the shoreline, waiting to snatch children who wandered too far onto the unstable ice. Leveraging a child's primal fear of being eaten was a far more reliable way to enforce geographical safety than trying to explain the science of thermal insulation or buoyancy. While some myths help us avoid physical hazards, others help us process the disasters we cannot escape, the sudden arrival of a plague or a cataclysm from the sky. The human mind struggles to witness mass death and accept it as a series of random, senseless accidents. We have an inherent need to find a centralized cause for the chaos. During the Black Death, Norwegians personified the plague as Pesta. A rake meant some might live. A broom meant she'd sweep everyone away. This figure turned an invisible killer into a tangible enemy, explaining why one farm survived while neighbors perished. It gave catastrophe a face. In the 16th century, this logic was applied to the stars. The Book of Miracles illustrated celestial anomalies like comets and blood moons as deliberate omens. Scholars used precision tools to categorize these sightings, believing that decoding these signs would predict the next disaster. Assigning intent to a disaster provides a strange kind of comfort. An enemy with a motive is something we can prepare for. Facing a malevolent spirit feels more manageable than facing an indifferent, random universe. The final utility of myth protects the community from itself. These stories acted as guardrails for human behavior, keeping flaws like greed or cruelty from destroying the social structure. In the frozen forests of the Algonquin people, the Wendigo represented the ultimate taboo. It was a monster born from winter starvation that grew larger with every person it consumed, a vivid deterrent against the breakdown of social order, cannibalism. Other myths focused on the survival of the oppressed. In West African folklore, Anansi the spider used his intellect to defeat adversaries much larger and stronger than himself. For people transported during the transatlantic slave trade, Anansi provided a strategic template for resistance. His stories demonstrated that outsmarting an oppressor was a more viable path to freedom than meeting brute force with force. These myths functioned as a collective map for behavior. They established the boundaries of what a community would tolerate, ensuring that the group could survive both external pressure and internal rot. Eventually, we developed the tools to look directly into the dark. Meteorology, germ theory, and physics mapped the places where the monsters used to live, replacing folklore with quantifiable data. We know now that comets are rocks following an orbit, and that thin ice is simply a result of thermal transfer. We no longer need a hag or a demon to explain why the world is dangerous. These historical myths reveal the deep resilience of our ancestors. They show a species that refused to be paralyzed by the unknown. We gave the darkness a face, a name, and a set of rules. We invented monsters so that we would have the strength to survive the things we couldn't yet understand.